Good afternoon, and welcome to Jeff and the Rabbi, the Hanukkah edition.
All 8 lights tonight.
All of them.
Last night, actually.
Last night, so it's
last
over.
night, yeah.
All right, so today for Hanukkah, a poem.
Ooh,
A Hanukkah poem.
Artsy.
Yes. It goes like this. 'Twas the last night of Hanukkah, and all through the town, the kinder were fighting and putzing around. Who gets to light the last candle? I hope it's not Uncle Zadel. On night 3 he got snockered and lit Bubby's shadel. In my city the Hebrews stayed home to pray, but in most places they stared skyward to see Santa's sleigh. You see, us Jews want to fit in, you know what I mean. So we change our last names just to get rid of the steam. We eat strips of bacon for breakfast and lobster at night. We out-goyim the goyim, but still aren't quite right. We scream always the loudest at the Orthodox Jews, but our temples on Shabbos have wide open pews. Why do we steal peaceful folks' land and always must win? Can't we just keep our heads down and try to fit in? Why can't you be more like my neighbors, the Smiths and Bashirs? They don't embarrass my kids with their black coats and beards. Now, I for one ain't no self-hating Jew. I love Streisand, Wolf Blitzer, and that Spielberg guy too. I watch NPR and I like Howard Stern, but why must we be so darn different and speak out of turn? So I know the story of Hanukkah. We were tough and not meek. But can't we just all assimilate and maybe be Greek? So I'm hoping, Rabbi, you can explain why it seems that us modern Jews maybe today have sided with the Maccabees instead of we decided against the Maccabees, instead of with them, like the story goes.
You know, I think you actually caught it there in your poem. It's really got kudos, and that was really a literary output that I'm not used to experiencing.
Yes, I'm a poet.
That was something pretty special.
And my feet show it because I'm they're Longfellows.
Yeah.
That's good. That's good.
Okay, we're gonna move. We're gonna move over to this side now.
Let's move this way and see where we can go.
Any more, you can get in trouble.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So the Greeks presented something to the Jewish people that the Jewish people really, really found attractive, and they still do. So your, NPR and Wolf Blitzer references, in many ways, are really what Hanukkah is really all about. To tell you the truth. So I'm sure some of them would be surprised to hear this, and many of them would be surprised to find out that they're on the Greek side. But
True.
I'm going to kind of retell the story a little bit differently than most people have heard it, because everyone understands it's a story. The Greeks, the big bad Greeks, came to the peace-loving, quiet, pacifistic Israelites, and they stomped on them, and they tried to crush them. And then the Israelites fought back, and they gained their independence from the big bad Greeks. The truth is, it didn't exactly work like that. What happened was, Alexander the Great was marching across the world, and when he got to Israel, instead of, there's a whole story about this, but I'm going to skip that, but the bottom line is, he invaded peacefully. They negotiated a peaceful surrender. Right. Israel did not fight with him. He came in peacefully. Came in, he moved in, sort of took over the country, and then moved on and ultimately got killed in Persia and all that. Right. When he died, his empire was divided up into different sections, and the Israel section fell in the domain of the Syrian Greeks under these kings called Antiochus. Okay. Now, the Syrian Greeks, like all the other Greeks, promoted Greek philosophy. And Greek philosophy was nothing to sneeze at. Greek philosophy at the time was extremely developed. It wasn't just, a different set of idols or different types of foods or something like that. The Greek philosophy was sophisticated in a way that the world had never seen before.
They were almost like the progressives. They were way out.
Listen, you're talking Pythagoras, right? Yeah. Now, for some people, Pythagoras still strikes fear in their hearts. Oh, yes. No, not
that was not my favorite theorem.
Right. No, don't do that to me. Don't make me prove it.
Oh.
Right. Oh. So, Pythagoras, Archimedes, Plato, Socrates, the Greeks really had something going. Their advances in the areas of art and science were unparalleled. The world had never seen anything like what they were doing. Technological advancements and things like that. So when Alexander came, although he didn't crush the country, it wasn't military, but he did bring the Greek culture. And he set up Greek schools, the gymnasiums schools. And the gymnasiums, also, the Greek worship, one of the things that they worship was the body, this beautifully perfect physical form. And the
which
games,
is kind of weird with all those naked Olympics and things like
right,
that.
the games,
Yes.
sure, right? And the games and the body and developing the perfection. And, of course, their lifestyle, which, was very Greek.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to get any further into
that's
that.
Good enough.
And the Jewish people found it very attractive because, as once I heard a rabbi named Rabbi Beryl Wine say, the Jews don't generally find lower grade societies attractive.
Right.
But when they see something that looks kind of superior, they really get attracted to it. And Greek philosophy seemed pretty superior. The young people flocked to it. They loved it. They wanted to identify with it. And what happened was, as they more and more embraced Greek philosophy, they started to squeeze the Jewish religion out of Israel. The traditionalist Jews felt more and more threatened by you could call them progressive, modernist, Hellenistic, Greek-oriented Jews, who ultimately took the temple in Jerusalem and turned it into a Greek temple.
Right.
And all of the traditionalists were on the run. They squeezed them out of the cities. They didn't want them around the cities. They didn't like the fact that they were keeping up with their old-fashioned, antiquated, superstitious, and on and on and on and on. So they drove them out. So they did. They fled to the small towns. Which is where many times you'll find that traditional values remain alive in the rural areas, whereas in the great metropolises, generally, there's no room for those traditional
values.
Things
don't change much, right?
No. The only people that think that things change are progressives.
Right.
Because they think that things actually really, really do change. The truth is, things don't really change, and that really is the fundamental. The world is not coming to like a new world that's totally different. It's different trappings, different clothing, but it's the same old stuff.
Same things.
So the traditionalists were out in the rural areas, and the big cities were dominated by the Greeks and the Greek thought and the Greek institutions and all that. But then they decided it's not enough. We're going to go get them even in the rural areas. And they started a campaign where they took Greek worship out to the little towns, and they set up Greek altars, and they demanded that everyone come in all the little locales, and they
demanded, were these the Jewish Greek-like people or the actual Greeks?
Right, great question. Okay. Who was it?
Right.
It was Jews who were backed by the Greek army. See, they had the army behind them.
Right.
The Greek army, which, they said, like, we are your kind of Jews, right? We're the Greek Jews.
Right.
So help us stomp out these other kind of Jews, which the Greek Jews didn't like the other Jews because the other Jews are the ones that embarrassed them so much, like your bearded, frocked people, always embarrass the modern Jews. So therefore, they, armed with the might of the Greek army behind them, they went after the countryside to turn it over. And they went out into some places, and the story goes, they came to the town of Modi'in, where Judah the Maccabee was, where Matisyahu was actually, and all of his sons, Judah being one of them. And they demanded that they come worship like good Greeks.
Right.
And they said, and there was a Jew stepped forward, and he said, yeah, I'm all in. And they stepped forward, and they killed him. They killed the Jew
right,
that was worshiping Greek. So that started the revolution, or the war, or actually you could even call it the Civil War. That sparked a war. But what it really was a Jew killed another Jew. The Jew, a traditionalist Jew, killed the other Jew that stepped forward and wanted to worship. There wasn't too much religious tolerance at that time in any direction. The Greek Jews were trying to stomp out and eradicate all of the traditional religious Jews. So the religious Jews got to a certain point where they said, we're not going to take that.
Can't go any further.
And we're going to fight back. And when we fight back, we're fighting back. And, we know what's right, and we believe in what's right, and they went to war. Now, they fought against the Greek army, but they were actually fighting against the Jews that had embraced Greek thought. So, and there it was. And the winners of the Chanukah story were actually the traditionalists who rejected the prevailing Greek philosophy. Now, the prevailing Greek philosophy was a philosophy that believed in science and the human body and self-expression, and did not believe in a God and a God-determined world, and did not believe in the supernatural. So, when we talk about it today, many of the people that, embrace and celebrate Chanukah, they're like, if you ask them, do you know that Chanukah is all about, believing in the supernatural, believing in miracles, believing that God determines that there's not really laws of science and nature? A lot of people would be pretty shocked to find that out.
And interesting, and I think you've mentioned this before, Hanukkah seems to be the holiday that most of the secular Jews celebrate more than anything else.
Yeah, right.
It's easy when you get presents, and it's easy, and kids light the candles. That's the favorite holiday of most secular Jews.
And it happens to come at the right season.
And it's coincidentally right around
right when you need it.
Coming.
Right when the Jews needed a holiday.
Right.
Yeah.
The best. So, it's kind of... I do wonder if a lot of people know, hey, maybe this is the opposite holiday that they really would want to celebrate if they thought about it, what it meant.
Yes, I think that, I don't know anything about I can't speak on behalf of Christianity or Xmas or any of that stuff, but I think that real Christians feel that their holiday or this Xmas thing has been hijacked and commercialized and sanitized and turned into something that's not. I think that we Jews, traditional Jews, could say the same thing for Hanukkah.
Right.
It's pretty much been hijacked by the people that it was actually against. And I think one of the classic examples of that is that they've created something called the Maccabee Games.
Right, well, that's actually funny as well, yeah.
Of all things, the Maccabee Games. The Maccabees were the guys that fought against the people that did games.
Right.
They were against the Olympics and against the body and the worship of the body and the athletic, whole athleticism thing. And now we have these games, and the games have been called, of all things, the Maccabee Games.
Which is just the opposite of what it should be.
Right.
But at least they're dressed. Which is good. At least they're wearing clothes during the games.
Yeah, this is it's absolutely preposterous. How the thing has flipped around, but that's what happens as time goes on. People appropriate something. Well, they like it. Hanukkah's nice. Hanukkah's good. Hanukkah has lasting power. We'll just appropriate it for our purposes.
Well, so should we be angry like people today say for appropriating our culture? Because right now, if I go eat in a Mexican restaurant, I can get yelled at for appropriating somebody's culture. So should we go menorah checking at everybody's house to make sure they understand what Hanukkah is all about?
This is what we're trying to do. Here at Jeff and the Rabbi, we're the word of truth coming out to the world.
Right.
We're trying to make people know. But that's really, really what it's about. The Greeks said that one jug of oil can burn for one day. If that's, they analyze it, tell me how many BTUs, give me the ambient temperature, the rate of the wind blowing at the time, I'll put all the calculations in, and I will tell you that it will burn until 3:47 a.m.
Right.
Got it? It's a fact.
That's it.
Right? And we say, we're going to put it in, and it'll burn to whenever God says it goes out.
Which is a different fact.
Different, right.
Right.
And we say, and that fact trumps your fact.
Right.
Because that fact will always beat all other facts, and therefore, it's a different way of looking at life. It's a different approach to everything, and it's a inspirational message that many people nowadays who light the menorah don't really understand that is the message that they're sending by that menorah.
And interesting is something you mentioned last week. See, I remembered our show from last week. It's pretty good. That you said, it wasn't that they destroyed all the oil. They just opened up the bottle so they were no longer had that seal. So it was like the whole purpose of the other side was to take the religion.
Right.
It wasn't to destroy the oil and put something else in it. Just take the religion part out of it. There's nothing holy about it.
Right.
And I think that's so.
Make it common, plain, defile it, basically. Right. They don't want to recognize this talk about it being
miracles or
miraculous, holy. So they're comfortable with it, and they love it if you can put it within a framework that they will understand. You know, like this is like every time you read about something amazing that no one can figure out about, like the development of an animal, and so they'll spend a lot of time figuring out, well, in the evolutionary process, it must have been the you know, they have to figure out. So the same thing, something has to be attributed to this menorah to explain how it fits in, and it becomes a symbol of progressive thought and you know, modernism, but really it's a symbol nowadays for many people of embracing the prevailing culture. But the menorah was actually a symbol of rejection of the prevailing culture.
And that's interesting, and that's a story that I guess probably is not told by Wolf Blitzer or other people in NPR or CNN, because it's an important one, because we are literally living in the same type times. I mean, it's if you understood and studied the story of those times in the Hanukkah time, it kind of looks like what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
And for some reason, the Jews seem to be right out in the front of all this and leading the way.
So, because Jews are always really good at that. Jews, when they see something good, they grab it. And, you know, of course, they are always looking for something good.
Right.
And they're always looking for something that will help normalize them, because the problem is, if you want to live in the menorah world and you want to light your menorah, it means you're going to be different, and it's uncomfortable to be different, quite frankly. It's uncomfortable to be going against the stream. The world was embracing Greek thought, and these Maccabees stood up and said, we reject it, but it makes so much sense. Look what it can do.
Right.
There was a great sage, and his name, they call him by the name of a book he wrote. His name was Rabbi Kagan, and he wrote a book called Chafetz Chaim. And the Chafetz Chaim died in 1934-ish, so the Chafetz Chaim had a granddaughter. And the granddaughter had left the religion, and she had moved to the big city. He lived in a small little Polish village, and she had moved to the big city of Warsaw, and she came back to visit him one time, and she said, Grandpa, come visit us, and you should visit us in the big city. They're building buildings there that they touch the sky. They're many stories high, and they have machines that fly in the sky. They can actually fly. A person can get in a machine and they fly around. And he said, you know what's going to happen? The people who fly in the machines in the sky are going to drop bombs on the buildings and destroy them.
Well, he was kind of close on that one. He got that one right there. Pretty good.
Yeah. Basically, he says, so what? So you build buildings, you fly in the sky in a machine. You know, what's that do for you?
Right.
How are you a better person today?
That's a good point. That's a good point. So it's actually interesting. So maybe the moral, I guess the moral of the Hanukkah story is that we don't always, progressivism in any stage, because we're obviously living the same stage now, isn't always right.
Right.
It's cool. It's the in thing, and it's modern, and it makes sense to the modern thinking mind. But maybe when we all come back to it, the Jews are still here, doing the same thing we were doing back in the times of the Hanukkah times. The traditionalists are, and the progressive way kind of comes and goes, because whatever's progressive today, by nature of the word, is not going to be progressive tomorrow. There's going to be something further, but Judaism's still there and God's still there.
You know, and add one angle is that, you know, the Greek philosophy, when it came to personal morality, like your personal bodily conduct, was loose, to say the least.
Yes.
You know, it was like all bets are off. It was just, you know, express yourself as you want. Which also, this is the foundation. The Greek philosophy that was rejected back then is the foundation of Roman culture, which is the foundation of our contemporary society.
Absolutely. So
it's really the same thing. And there is a small group of people, they look like weirdos, like the Maccabees, who I'm sure were reviled for being like religious fanatics.
Right.
But we're still lighting their menorah.
Yeah, it sounds like my Thanksgiving conversations with the family, but let's not get into that. That's
not your family.
Not mine, please. But so again, we're back to the same discussion, is you can keep being modern, you can keep moving on, you can keep wearing, you know, being a man and a woman and a man, a dog and a cat, everything you want to do, but bottom line, we're still fighting the same battle we were thousands of years ago.
Right.
All right.
What do they say? The more things change, the more they stay the same.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very interesting and a different take, and I think a better one people should probably listen to on the Hanukkah story here.
Yeah. Catch it now, last day of Hanukkah.
That's it. All right. Good. Well, exciting.
Yeah.
So I mean, and I know you're not coming back. You're still not doing that Christmas special with Andy Williams.
No,
That's not.
no. You know what I was just thinking? I think all of our viewers in Australia.
Right.
It's already after Hanukkah.
Oh, that's
there,
right. So too late for them.
Yeah.
I feel bad about that. All right. Well, we'll be back next week with something new and original.
Yeah.